Jack Thompson stood alone in his small studio, a sanctuary filled with the remnants of his passion for art. The walls were adorned with half-finished canvases, and the faint scent of turpentine lingered in the air. In front of him loomed a blank canvas, stark and unyielding, mirroring the void he felt inside. It had been years since he had picked up a brush with genuine excitement, and now, as he stared at the empty surface, he felt a familiar pang of nostalgia wash over him, tugging at his heartstrings. Memories of his youthful exuberance flooded his mind, vibrant and alive. He recalled the long afternoons spent painting under the warm glow of the sun, the laughter shared with friends, and the dreams he had spun with Emily Carter, his former fiancée. They had shared a vision of a life filled with art, love, and endless possibilities. But that was before everything changed, before heartbreak shattered their dreams into a million irretrievable pieces. He closed his eyes, trying to shut out the memories, but his mind betrayed him, conjuring the vivid image of their last fight. It was a clash of emotions, a cacophony of words that had left scars deeper than any brushstroke could mend. "Jack, I just don't know if this is what I want anymore," Emily had said, her voice trembling with uncertainty. Her blue eyes, once filled with warmth and affection, now seemed distant and clouded with doubt. "I feel like I'm losing myself in all of this." "We can work through this, Em," Jack had pleaded, desperation coating his words. "We've always found a way. We can make this work. You just need to trust me." But trust had faltered that day, and the weight of their unspoken fears had driven a wedge between them. "I need to find my own path," she had declared, her voice breaking as she turned away from him. The sound of her footsteps echoing in his mind still felt like a physical blow, a reminder of the love that had slipped through his fingers like sand. Jack opened his eyes, blinking against the tide of emotion that threatened to engulf him. He took a deep breath, the air heavy with unfulfilled dreams. The blank canvas remained before him, a symbol of the art he had abandoned, much like the relationship he had lost. He picked up a brush hesitantly, dipping it into a pool of blue paint. As he applied the first stroke, he found some solace in the act, hoping to channel his pain into something tangible. Hours slipped away as he painted, each stroke becoming a cathartic release. The canvas transformed slowly, colors blending in a chaotic dance that mirrored the turmoil within him. But no matter how hard he tried, the image of Emily haunted him, a ghost lurking in the corners of his mind. As twilight descended outside, casting a golden hue across the studio, he finally stepped back to survey his work. The painting was chaotic, a whirlwind of emotions that reflected his inner landscape, yet it felt incomplete. Jack sighed, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. He longed for the clarity he once felt when he painted, the moments when inspiration flowed effortlessly and the world seemed to fade away. That evening, he received an unexpected envelope in the mail, its crisp edges contrasting sharply with the clutter surrounding him. Jack opened it cautiously, his heart racing as he pulled out a glossy invitation. It was for an art exhibition featuring local artists, an event he had heard whispers about but had pushed aside in his mind. The thought of attending sent a jolt of anxiety through him, yet a flicker of curiosity ignited within him. Perhaps this was what he needed, a chance to reconnect with the art world that had once brought him so much joy. Maybe, just maybe, it would help him find closure on the chapter of his life that had been irrevocably altered by the loss of Emily. As he prepared for the exhibition, Jack felt a mix of apprehension and excitement. He dressed carefully, choosing a simple yet elegant outfit that reflected his artistic sensibilities. Standing in front of the mirror, he hardly recognized the man staring back at him. The years had etched lines of disappointment on his face, and his once bright eyes seemed dulled by the weight of unfulfilled dreams. With a deep breath, he stepped out into the night, determined to face whatever awaited him. The exhibition venue was alive with energy, a buzz of conversation and laughter filling the air. As Jack entered, he was enveloped by the vibrant atmosphere. He could smell the faint scent of paint mixed with the aroma of wine, and the walls were adorned with colorful artwork that spoke of passion and creativity. It was intoxicating, a reminder of the world he had distanced himself from. He wandered through the gallery, pausing to admire the various pieces on display. Each artwork told a story, a glimpse into the soul of the artist. Jack felt a pang of longing as he observed the vibrant colors and intricate details, wishing he could summon the same fervor within himself. As he moved deeper into the gallery, he suddenly spotted a piece that struck a chord deep within him. It was a painting of a serene landscape, reminiscent of the places he had explored with Emily during their idyllic days together. The colors swirled together, evoking a sense of nostalgia that made his heart ache. He stepped closer, captivated by the emotion captured on the canvas, and for a moment, he was transported back in time to when art had been his lifeline. "Beautiful, isn't it?" A voice interrupted his reverie. Jack turned to see a woman standing beside him, her eyes sparkling with admiration. The artist really captured the essence of longing. "Yeah, it is," Jack replied, forcing a smile. "It reminds me of, well, a time that feels both distant and close." The woman nodded, her expression understanding. "Art has that power. It can evoke memories we thought we had locked away." Jack opened his mouth to respond, but before he could form the words, his gaze drifted across the room, and his heart nearly stopped. There, amidst the crowd, stood Emily. She was laughing, her head thrown back, in a way that made the air around her seem brighter. But it wasn't just her presence that shocked him. It was the man standing beside her. He bore an uncanny resemblance to Jack himself. His mind raced, confusion and anger swelling within him. Why was she here? And who was this man? The questions swirled in his head as he fought to regain his composure. He felt as though the ground had shifted beneath his feet, and he was teetering on the edge of a precipice. "Are you okay?" the woman beside him asked, concern lacing her voice. "Yeah, just surprised to see someone I know," Jack managed to say, his eyes locked on Emily. The laughter that once seemed like music now felt like a haunting melody, echoing the pain of their past. As he watched them interact, a wave of memories washed over him. Moments of joy and heartbreak intertwined. The sight of Emily smiling at another man felt like a dagger to his heart, reopening old wounds he had desperately tried to heal. The way she leaned into him, the way their eyes sparkled with connection, made it painfully clear that whatever they had shared was now a distant memory, overshadowed by the life she had built without him. Jack's hands clenched into fists at his sides, torn between the urge to approach her and the overwhelming fear of rejection. He hesitated, rooted in place as he grappled with his emotions. Would he find closure in confronting the past, or would it only serve to deepen the chasm that had formed between them? The exhibition continued around him, but Jack felt as though time had stopped. He was caught in a moment that felt both surreal and devastatingly real. As he stood there, the weight of his choices and the remnants of a love long lost pressed heavily on his heart. The night stretched on, and with every passing second, he knew he had to make a choice, to remain a spectator in his own life or to step forward and confront the shadows of his past. The atmosphere in the gallery was electric, a cacophony of chatter mixed with the soft strains of classical music that wafted through the air. Jack Thompson entered the expansive space, his heart pounding in rhythm with the beats of nostalgia that echoed in his chest. The walls were adorned with vibrant canvases, each piece a window into the soul of the artist who created it. Yet amidst the swirling colors, Jack felt like a ghost haunting the remnants of his own past. As he wandered deeper into the exhibition, Jack's eyes fell upon a particular painting that arrested his attention. It was a piece that captured the essence of longing, a swirling tempest of blues and yellows that seemed to pulsate with emotion. It reminded him of Emily, her laughter, her warmth, the way sunlight danced in her hair when they were together. He could almost hear her voice, a sweet melody that played in his mind, bringing with it both happiness and heartache. "Beautiful, isn't it?" a voice interrupted his reverie. Jack turned to see an older woman, her silver hair pinned neatly at the back of her head, her eyes sparkling with appreciation for the art around them. "Yes, it is," Jack replied, his voice barely above a whisper. It brings back memories. Art has a way of doing that," she smiled knowingly. "It captures moments we often forget. Are you an artist yourself?" "Once," he admitted, looking down at the floor, but I've traded my brush for a classroom. Ah, a teacher. The world needs more of those, she said, her smile warm and genuine. Do you still paint? Not much anymore, Jack confessed, the weight of his words heavy in his chest. I lost my way. The woman nodded, understanding etched across her features. Perhaps tonight is a sign to find it again. Jack offered her a weak smile, appreciating her encouragement but feeling the sting of loss. He stepped away from the painting, his heart still tethered to the memories it conjured. But as he moved through the crowd, he felt a strange sense of foreboding, as if something or someone was waiting for him. And that was when he saw her. Across the room, amidst the throng of art enthusiasts, Jack spotted Emily. She was laughing, her head thrown back in joy, with a tall man at her side. His heart skipped a beat, a tumultuous wave of emotions crashing over him. The man bore an uncanny resemblance to Jack himself, tall, with dark hair and a similar build. Jack's breath caught in his throat as he felt a surge of confusion, jealousy, and anger coursing through him. What the hell is happening? He muttered under his breath, his eyes glued to the pair. His pulse quickened as he took a step closer, half tempted to confront her, to demand answers to the questions that had haunted him for the last 2 decades. But the sight of her, radiant and carefree, made him falter. Memories washed over him, their late-night talks, shared dreams, and the heartbreaking day she left. Jack? A familiar voice broke through his thoughts, and he turned to see his co-worker, Claire, standing beside him, her brow furrowed in concern. Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. He forced a smile, but his gaze drifted back to Emily. I think I need a moment, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Sure, take your time. I'll be around if you need me, Claire replied, sensing his turmoil but unable to fully grasp its depth. Jack nodded absently, his feet moving almost of their own accord as he edged closer to where Emily and the man stood. He strained to hear. Their conversation, words tangled in the air like the brushstrokes on the canvases around him. Always knew you had a knack for art, Emily said, her voice lilting and full of warmth. Just like you always said, Em. It's a way to express what's in here, the man replied, placing a hand over his heart, his expression earnest. Jack's heart pounded as he listened. The intimacy between them was undeniable. The way Emily leaned in, her laughter ringing like a bell, twisted the knife of jealousy deeper into Jack's heart. He felt like an intruder in a world he once belonged to, a spectator of a life he could have had. Maybe we should do this more often, Emily suggested, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Art has always brought us together. Absolutely, the man replied, an easy smile spreading across his face. You know, I've always wanted to take that painting class you mentioned. It would be fun to explore our creativity together. Jack's chest tightened at the implication. They shared a bond that felt sacred and profound, and the realization sent a wave of anger coursing through him. He clenched his fists, battling the urge to storm over and confront her. Instead, he took a step back, his heart heavy with unspoken words. As he continued to observe from a distance, he felt the weight of the years pressing down on him. He remembered the last time he had seen Emily, the hurt in her eyes when she walked away, the emptiness that swallowed him whole. Those memories defined him, but now he was confronted with a reality he never expected. She had moved on, and it seemed she had done so with someone who was a mere reflection of himself. Why did you leave? He whispered to himself, the question hanging in the air like a ghost. He wanted to scream it at her, wanted answers to the questions that tormented him. But the thought of approaching her when she seemed so happy with this man felt like stepping into a minefield. Just then the man leaned closer, whispering something in Emily's ear that made her laugh again. Jack watched as a flush crept up her cheeks, and he felt a pang of longing mixed with bitterness. It was as if the universe was mocking him, taunting him with what could have been. Just go talk to her, he muttered under his breath, wrestling with his own hesitations. But the words felt heavy, a weight he couldn't lift. What would he say? How could he even begin to bridge the chasm of time that had separated them? With his heart racing, Jack gathered his courage, taking one tentative step forward. But just as he did, he caught a glimpse of Emily's face. The way her eyes sparkled with happiness, the way she leaned into the man's presence. He faltered, his resolve crumbling under the weight of reality. Maybe it's better this way, he thought, stepping back into the shadows of the gallery. Maybe it's time to let go. As he retreated into the crowd, Jack felt a sense of loss envelop him, a familiar ache that whispered of dreams, unfulfilled, and paths untaken. He needed answers, clarity, but the sight of Emily laughing, so alive and vibrant, made him question everything he thought he knew. The rest of the exhibition blurred into a haze of color and noise. Jack wandered aimlessly, the art around him becoming a mere backdrop to the turmoil within. Each painting he passed seemed to echo his despair, reflecting the myriad of emotions he felt but could not articulate. Maybe I should just leave, he murmured to himself, feeling the weight of the past dragging him down. But deep down, he knew he couldn't. Walk away without confronting his feelings. He owed it to himself, to the man he used to be, to at least attempt to seek closure. And so, with the cacophony of the gallery swirling around him, Jack made a decision. He would find a way to confront Emily, to understand the connection between them and the man who resembled him. But for now, he needed to step back, to breathe, to gather his thoughts before plunging into an emotional battlefield that had the potential to reshape his entire world once again. Jack Thompson paced restlessly in his small, cluttered studio, the walls adorned with his past creations, each canvas a testament to the fervor that once ignited his spirit. However, now, after the unexpected encounter at the art exhibition, he felt like a ghost haunting his own life. The memory of Emily Carter laughing with the man who bore an uncanny resemblance to him replayed incessantly in his mind. He shook his head, pushing aside the emotions that threatened to overwhelm him. Confusion, anger, longing. He needed answers. The next day, Jack decided to reach out to some mutual friends, hoping to piece together the fragments of Emily's life since their tragic split. He pulled out his old phone, its screen cracked but functional, and scrolled through his contacts. He paused at Sarah's name, a friend from their shared art community, and took a deep breath before dialing. "Hey, Sarah, it's Jack," he said when she answered, trying to sound casual but feeling everything but. "Jack, wow, it's been ages. How are you?" Sarah's voice was warm, a balm to his frayed nerves. "I'm all right, just, trying to get back into the art scene. I saw Emily at the exhibition last night," he confessed, his heart racing. "Emily? At the exhibition? I didn't know she was back in town." There was a hint of surprise in her tone. "How was she?" "She looked happy, but she was with a guy who looks a lot like me. I'm just trying to understand what happened to her after everything," Jack admitted, his voice dropping slightly at the end. There was a pause on the other end, and he could almost hear the gears turning in Sarah's mind. "Oh, Jack, I didn't know you still thought about her. I mean, it's been 20 years. I know. But seeing her again brought back a lot of..." "Feelings?" Sarah interrupted gently. "Look, I can tell you a bit. Emily got married a few years after you two split. She has 2 kids now." "Married?" The word tasted bitter on his tongue. "Do you know who her husband is?" "Not really. She was always a bit private about her family life after her marriage. I think it was a tough time for her," Sarah replied, her tone shifting to something more somber. "I did hear about a tragic accident involving him a few years back. It was really sad." "An accident? What do you mean?" Jack pressed, his curiosity piqued, a knot forming in his stomach. "Just that he died in a car crash. Emily was left to raise the kids alone." "I'm sorry, Jack. I didn't mean to bring up old wounds," Sarah said, her voice softening. Jack felt a rush of emotions, sympathy for Emily, anger at the circumstances, and an odd sense of relief that perhaps she had loved again, even if it ended in tragedy. "Thanks, Sarah. That helps. I need to know more about this guy. Why did he look so much like me?" After hanging up, Jack felt restless. The unanswered questions gnawed at him. He decided to visit the old cafe where he and Emily used to spend countless afternoons talking about art, dreams, and their future. Perhaps the familiar space would help him collect his thoughts. The cafe still held the same quaint charm, a mix of rustic wooden furniture and eclectic artwork hanging on the walls. As he entered, the rich aroma of coffee washed over him, stirring memories of laughter and love. He approached the counter, where a barista with vibrant tattoos was busy preparing drinks. "Hey there, what can I get for you?" she asked, her bright smile infectious. "Just a black coffee, please," Jack replied, trying to keep his demeanor casual. As he waited, he scanned the room, half hoping to see Emily's familiar face. "Jack Thompson, right?" the barista suddenly said, recognition lighting up her eyes. "I remember you. You used to come here with Emily all the time." "Yeah, that was a long time ago," he said, a hint of nostalgia creeping into his voice. "I saw her recently at an art exhibition. Do you know anything about her life now?" The barista leaned in slightly, lowering her voice as if sharing a secret. "I've heard a few things. She was married for a while, but it ended tragically. I think it was a car accident that took her husband. Poor Emily, she's had it rough." Jack's chest tightened as he absorbed the barista's words. "What was he like?" he asked, desperate for more information. "I don't know much," she admitted, glancing around the cafe to ensure no one was eavesdropping. "But I've heard that he had a similar build to you, and he was an artist too. I think that's why people talk about them together." His heart raced at her revelation. "An artist?" Jack echoed, his mind racing. "What else do you know?" "Not much, really. Just that Emily was really in love with him. They were the kind of couple that made everyone else feel a little jealous, you know?" The barista smiled wistfully. "But after he died, she seemed to retreat from everything. It was like she lost a part of herself." Jack felt a pang of empathy. "Do you know what happened to him? Was it a recent thing?" "Yeah, it was a few years back. I think they were on their way back from a gallery opening. Something went wrong on the road," she said, her voice trailing off. "Emily's been trying to put her life back together since then." "Thanks for the information," Jack said, gratitude lacing his voice. He took his coffee and found a seat by the window, the sunlight filtering through the glass, illuminating the layers of dust dancing in the air. He sipped his coffee slowly, letting the warmth seep into him, but his mind was racing with thoughts of Emily, her husband, and the striking resemblance between them. He felt a surge of determination. He needed to understand this connection, this bond that seemed to transcend mere coincidence. Perhaps it was time to dig deeper into the past, to uncover the truths hidden beneath the surface of their shared history. As he left the cafe, the afternoon sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the pavement. Jack walked with purpose, his mind swirling with new possibilities. He couldn't shake the feeling that this exploration would lead him not just to answers about Emily's life, but also to a deeper understanding of his own. After all, the past had a way of lingering, and Jack was finally ready to confront it. Jack stood at the edge of the park, the crisp autumn air swirling around him, leaves crunching beneath his feet. His heart raced as he spotted Emily a few yards away, sitting on a bench with her children, their laughter ringing like distant chimes in the cool breeze. He had rehearsed this moment in his mind countless times, yet the reality of it felt more daunting than he ever imagined. There she was, the woman who had once been his entire world, now a mother, living a life that had moved on without him. Taking a deep breath, Jack steeled himself. The walk toward her felt like a journey through a tunnel of memories, each step weighed down by the past, yet pulling him closer to the present. As he approached, Emily looked up, her smile fading into a look of surprise and uncertainty. It was a stark reminder of how much had changed in 2 decades. "Jack?" she said, her voice soft, almost hesitant, as if she were testing the name on her tongue after years of silence. "Emily," he replied, managing a small smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. The children, oblivious to the tension, continued to play, their giggles a stark contrast to the heaviness in the air between their mother and her former love. "It's been a long time," she said, her gaze flickering to the ground, then back up to meet his eyes. "Yeah, it has," Jack replied, shifting his weight awkwardly. "I saw you at the exhibition last week." Emily's expression shifted subtly, a hint of surprise mixed with something else. Maybe regret. "Oh, right. I didn't expect to see you there. It's a small world, isn't it?" "Small enough," Jack said, his voice barely above a whisper. He hesitated, searching for the right words. "You looked happy." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes this time. "I try to be. The kids keep me busy." She gestured toward the 2 children playing tag. "This is Lily and Max." "Hey there," Jack called out, forcing a smile as he waved at the kids. They looked up briefly, then resumed their playful chase, tumbling over one another in their innocent exuberance. "Are they?" Jack began, but he faltered, unsure how to finish the question without sounding intrusive. "They're my world," Emily answered, her voice softening. "Their father. He's not here anymore." Jack felt a pang of guilt wash over him. He had known about David's accident, but had never fully grasped the weight of those words until now. "I'm sorry," he said, his heart aching for her. "I didn't mean to bring it up." "It's okay," Emily replied, though her eyes were clouded with memories. "It's been a few years now. Sometimes it feels like he's still here, and other times—" She trailed off, looking down at her hands clasped on her lap, as if grounding herself in the moment. Jack couldn't help but wonder how much David resembled him, and how those similarities might haunt her. He gathered his courage, the need to know pushing him forward. "I saw you with him at the exhibition. He looked a lot like me." Emily's gaze shot up, surprise evident in her features. "You noticed that too?" "I couldn't help it," Jack admitted. "It was uncanny." For a moment, silence enveloped them, heavy and thick. Jack could almost hear the clock ticking in the background, counting off the seconds in which he felt both connected and distant from her. He was my husband," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "David. He died in a car accident a few years ago." "I know," Jack said, his heart sinking. "I'm really sorry, Emily." "It was hard for the kids," she continued, her voice trembling slightly. "And for me too. But we've been trying to move forward. It's just complicated." "Complicated how?" Jack pressed gently, unable to contain his curiosity. "I don't mean to pry, but I need to understand." Emily hesitated, the shadows of her past flickering across her face. "It's just that sometimes I see him in the kids. They have his eyes, his smile. And then there are moments when I can almost hear his voice, like he's still here with us." Jack felt an unexpected jolt of emotion at her words. It was as if she were describing a ghost, something both beautiful and tragic. "And the resemblance? It must make it harder," he said softly. "Yes," she breathed, her eyes glistening. "Jack, I often think about you. I never stopped wondering what you were doing, how your life turned out. She cut herself off, the weight of her confession hanging in the air between them. "You think about me?" Jack echoed, his heart racing. Emily nodded slowly, her vulnerability laying bare the complexity of their shared history. "I do. I remember our dreams, our plans, and even though so much has changed, I still feel that connection. It's strange, isn't it?" "Strange, yes," Jack replied, his voice thick with emotion. "But also comforting to know that I wasn't just a fleeting memory to you." Just then, Lily and Max came bounding over, their cheeks flushed from playing. "Mom, can we have ice cream?" Lily exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. Emily's demeanor shifted instantly, her motherly instincts taking over. "Sure, sweetie. Just for a moment, okay?" She turned back to Jack, an apologetic smile on her face. "Would you like to join us? It's a little cold for ice cream, but who can resist?" Jack hesitated, glancing at the children who were already tugging at their mother's arms. "I wouldn't want to impose," he said, though the idea of spending more time with Emily was enticing. "Oh, come on," she insisted playfully. "It's just ice cream. Besides, it's been so long. I'd like to catch up more if you're open to it." "Okay then, I'll join you," Jack said, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. As they walked toward the nearby ice cream shop, Emily chatted animatedly with her children, and Jack marveled at how effortlessly she navigated motherhood. He couldn't help but steal glances at her, reminiscing about the young woman he once knew and how life had reshaped her into someone new yet familiar. Once inside, the warmth enveloped them, contrasting sharply with the cool air outside. The shop was bustling with families, laughter mingling with the sweet scent of waffle cones. Jack watched as Emily helped her kids choose their flavors, her face lighting up with joy as they made their selections. "Mint chocolate chip for me," Max declared, his eyes wide with anticipation. "I'll have strawberry," Lily chimed in, bouncing on her toes. "And for you, Emily?" Jack asked, leaning against the counter, feeling a sense of nostalgia wash over him. "I'll stick with vanilla," she replied, her eyes twinkling. Can't go wrong with the classics. As they waited for their ice cream, Jack felt an undercurrent of tension mixed with warmth. Do they know about David? He asked, cautious but curious. Emily sighed, her expression shifting to one of contemplation. They do. I've talked to them about him, but I try to keep it age-appropriate. I want them to remember their dad, but I don't want them to dwell on the loss. It's a delicate balance. Jack nodded, understanding the weight of her words. You're doing a great job, Emily. They seem really happy. She smiled, genuine gratitude in her eyes. Thank you, Jack. I appreciate that. It's not always easy, but they bring me so much joy. As they continued their conversation, Jack felt a strange sense of peace settling in. Even amidst the unanswered questions and lingering feelings, there was something comforting about being near Emily again. The ice cream arrived and they found a small table in the corner of the shop, the children eagerly digging into their cones. Jack, do you still paint? Emily asked, her voice laced with curiosity. I do, he replied, a hint of pride creeping into his tone. Teaching art has become my passion, but I still find time to create. It's cathartic. I'd love to see your work, she said, her eyes sparkling with interest. I remember how talented you were. You always had such a unique perspective. Jack felt a warmth spread through him at her words, the memories of their shared dreams surfacing like sunlight breaking through clouds. Maybe I'll show you sometime, he said, a grin creeping onto his face. Promise? Emily asked, her playful tone returning. Promise, Jack replied, their eyes locking in a moment that felt charged with unspoken words. As the conversation flowed, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that their reunion was opening doors he thought had long been closed. But with every laugh, every shared memory, there was an undercurrent of sadness, a reminder of what had been lost and what could never be reclaimed. Jack stood in his modest studio, surrounded by unfinished canvases that seemed to mirror his own life, half-formed, lost in a haze of unfulfilled potential and forgotten dreams. The sunlight streamed through the window, casting soft glows on the paint-splattered floor. Yet it didn't reach the dark corners of his mind where memories of Emily lingered. He picked up a brush, its bristles worn and frayed, and dipped it into vibrant blue paint, a color reminiscent of the ocean they had once walked along hand in hand. As he began to paint, he felt a swell of emotions rising within him. Each stroke was a catharsis, a release of the longing and confusion that had gripped him since the exhibition. Emily's laughter echoed in his ears, mingled with the image of the man she had been with, a man who looked so hauntingly like him. Jack's heart raced at the thought. Who was this man, really? Why did he look like a reflection of a life he had lost? Damn it, Emily, Jack muttered under his breath, frustration spilling onto the canvas as he smudged a line of blue into a chaotic swirl. What are you doing to me? The memories of their past flooded back, her bright smile, the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke about art, and the moment she had walked away from him, leaving behind a gaping hole in his heart. He remembered her doubts, her fears about their future, and how he had tried to convince her that love was enough. But love had not been enough that day, and now, 2 decades later, it felt as though he were still grappling with the aftermath of that heartbreak. The brush paused in midair as a revelation struck him. This painting was not just an expression of his artistic journey, it was a reflection of his life, his struggles, and his unresolved feelings for Emily. He dipped the brush back into the paint, this time with renewed vigor, channeling his sorrow and anger into bold strokes that seemed to dance across the canvas. Hours passed as Jack lost himself in the rhythm of creation, the outside world fading away. The blue morphed into shades of green, then into fiery reds and oranges, creating a landscape that was both chaotic and beautiful, a testament to the complexities of love and loss. When he finally stepped back, he stared at the piece with a mix of pride and pain. It was raw, honest, and undeniably him. As he cleaned his brushes, Jack's mind drifted back to the photograph he had found of Emily and David, her late husband. The resemblance between David and himself was uncanny, and it gnawed at the edges of his consciousness. What did it mean? Was his life intertwined with Emily's in ways he had never comprehended? The following days were engulfed in a haze of introspection. Jack found himself consumed by thoughts of Emily, her children, and the life she had built after their separation. He began to dig deeper into David's life, hoping to uncover more about the man who had taken his place in Emily's heart. One afternoon, while sifting through old newspapers at the local library, Jack stumbled upon an article about David's untimely death. It was a tragic piece that spoke of a car accident, a fleeting moment that had forever altered the course of several lives. But what caught Jack's eye was the accompanying photograph. David was smiling, his arms slung casually around Emily's shoulders, their faces illuminated with a happiness that felt painfully familiar. Jack's breath caught in his throat as he compared the image to one of himself from years ago. The similarities were striking. Same jawline, same dark hair, even the way they both smiled with an ease that melted the hearts of those around them. It was as if he were staring into a mirror that reflected a life he had never lived. Unbelievable, he whispered to himself, feeling the weight of the discovery settle heavily on his chest. How could I have never seen this? That evening, Jack sat in a cafe where he and Emily used to frequent, a place that held echoes of laughter and stolen glances. The barista, a young woman with an infectious smile, recognized him immediately. "Jack, it's been ages," she exclaimed, wiping her hands on her apron as she approached him. "You still painting?" "Trying to," he replied, forcing a smile. "Just working through some things." "I get that," she said, leaning against the counter. "You should come to the gallery again. There's a new exhibition opening next week." "I might," Jack said non-committally, his mind still lingering on the photograph. As they chatted, he asked her casually about Emily, hoping to glean more about the life she had built. The barista's expression shifted slightly, and she leaned in closer. "You know, there's been talk about Emily's past," she said quietly, glancing around as though someone might overhear. "Rumors about David, too. Some say he was more than just a husband to her." Jack's heart raced. "What do you mean?" There were whispers about his family, some secrets that never came out. I wouldn't know for sure, but it's worth asking around if you're curious." "Secrets?" Jack echoed, his mind spinning with possibilities. "Yeah, like things that might explain why she married him so quickly after you two broke up," the barista said, her voice low. "I'd be careful, though. Some folks don't take kindly to digging into the past." Jack thanked her, his heart pounding as he left the cafe. The idea of confronting old wounds and unraveling the truth about Emily's life after him both excited and terrified him. What if the answers he sought only led to more questions? Days turned into weeks as Jack wrestled with his emotions. The painting he had created became a focal point of his thoughts, a testament to his journey of self-discovery amidst the shadows of his past. Yet despite his ongoing quest for understanding, he felt an unsettling void, a nagging question that lingered. Who was he in this tangled web of relationships? One evening, as he sat in his studio, the painting looming behind him like a guardian of his feelings, Jack came to a startling realization. Perhaps he had never truly moved on from Emily. He had spent the last 20 years in a state of limbo, caught between the memories of their love and the haunting shadow of David. "Maybe I've been living in David's shadow all along," Jack murmured to himself, the weight of the thought settling heavily in his chest. "What if I've never let go of her because I thought she was meant to be mine?" The revelation struck him hard. Jack understood that he had been clinging to a version of Emily that existed only in his mind, a figment of a love that had once been vibrant but had long since faded. He needed to find peace, not just with Emily's past, but with his own identity. With a newfound determination, Jack resolved to confront Emily again. He sought to understand her life, to uncover the truth about David and the connection that bound them all. As he prepared for this next step, he felt an unexpected sense of clarity wash over him. Perhaps the answers he sought would not only liberate him from the shadows, but also illuminate the path ahead, a chance to redefine his own narrative and embrace the possibilities that lay before him. As he stood before his painting, Jack felt a spark of hope ignite within him. The past had shaped him, but it would not define him. He took a deep breath, ready to face whatever truths awaited him, knowing that the journey to self-discovery was just beginning. Jack Thompson sat on the edge of his bed, the phone cradled between his shoulder and ear as he paced the small room. The walls were adorned with remnants of his artistic past, paintings that once burst with color, now faded and lifeless. His heart raced as he listened to the private investigator's calm voice on the other end, each word weighing heavily on him. "Jack, I've got some information about David," the investigator said, his tone measured. "You need to sit down for this." Jack halted, a tremor of foreboding coursing through him. "What is it? Just tell me." "There's a familial connection between you and David," the investigator continued, taking a breath. "You two are half-brothers." The revelation hit Jack like a physical blow. He stumbled back, gripping the bedpost for support. "What? That can't be right. How do you know?" "David was born in a small town not far from where you were raised. I've tracked down some documents, and it seems both of you share the same father, Henry Thompson." Jack's mind raced. The name echoed in his past, a shadow he had tried to forget. Henry Thompson had been a man of secrets, a figure who had left a trail of unanswered questions and pain in his wake. "My father? But how? Why didn't I know?" "There was a scandal, Jack. Your mother. She left Henry when she found out he had another family. David was raised with his mother, who never spoke of you. It's a complicated story, but the evidence is solid." Jack felt the room spin as he tried to process the implications. All those years of rejection and heartbreak, the shadow of Emily, the resemblance to David that had haunted him, now twisted into a complex web of family ties. "What does this mean for me? For Emily? That's up to you, Jack. But this connection, it changes everything. You and Emily, you're tied together in ways you never imagined. It's a chance to understand your past, but it could also complicate your future." "Thank you," Jack managed, his voice barely above a whisper. He hung up, the weight of the revelation pressing down on him like a lead blanket. He felt as if he had been thrust into a different reality, one where the lines between love and loss, grief and kinship, blurred into a murky haze. Jack stepped outside, the cool air biting against his skin as he walked toward the park. The familiar path felt different now, charged with a new significance. He recalled the moments he had spent there with Emily, the laughter and the dreams they had painted together. Now those memories were intertwined with a truth that felt almost surreal. As he approached the park, he spotted Emily and her children playing on the swings, their laughter ringing out like a melody. The sight stirred a mix of nostalgia and pain within him. Jack halted at the edge of the playground, watching the scene unfold before him. Emily's hair glowed in the afternoon sun, and for a moment, he could almost convince himself that nothing had changed, until he remembered the truth. "Jack?" A voice broke through his thoughts. He turned to see a familiar face. Lily, one of Emily's daughters, running towards him, her face alight with joy. "Uncle Jack!" she shouted, wrapping her small arms around his waist. "Hey there, sweet pea," Jack said, kneeling to embrace her. "What are you up to?" "Mom said we could go get ice cream after this." She beamed, her excitement infectious. Jack couldn't help but smile, even as a knot tightened in his chest. "Sounds like a plan. Where's your brother?" "Over there," Lily pointed to a boy climbing the jungle gym, his laughter echoing through the park. Jack watched the boy for a moment, then turned back to Lily, who was now tugging at his hand. "Come on, Uncle Jack. You have to come play with us." He hesitated, glancing back at Emily, who was watching them with a soft smile. The sight of her sent a jolt through him, memories flooding back, both joyful and painful. With a deep breath, he stood up, feeling a sense of resolve wash over him. "Okay, let's do it." As Jack joined Lily on the swings, he pushed her lightly, their laughter mingling with the sound of the breeze rustling through the trees. "Higher, Uncle Jack," she squealed, and he complied, pushing her higher until her feet nearly brushed the leaves above. "Look at me," she shouted, her laughter ringing in the air like music. Jack felt a warmth spread through him, a reminder of the joy that once filled his life. But as he swung, the reality of his situation crashed back over him. He was not just Jack Thompson, the art teacher or the broken-hearted artist. He was now a brother, connected to a man he had never known. After a while, they took a break, and Jack found himself sitting on a bench next to Emily. The moment felt charged, 1,000 unspoken words hanging between them. "You look happy," she said, her eyes sparkling as she watched Lily chase her brother. "I am," he replied, though his heart was heavy. It's good to see them enjoying themselves. Emily nodded, her gaze drifting to the children. They're everything to me, Jack. After David, she hesitated, her voice trailing off. It's been a journey. I can only imagine, he said softly, his thoughts turning to the man she had loved, the man who had shared a bond with him that he had never known. I met with a private investigator today. Her eyes flickered with curiosity. What for? Jack took a deep breath, weighing his words carefully. He found some information about David. It turns out, we're connected. We're half-brothers. The silence that followed was palpable. Emily's expression shifted from surprise to concern. What do you mean? David and I share the same father, Henry Thompson. The words felt foreign on his tongue, a truth he had only just begun to understand. Emily's brow furrowed as she processed the information. I didn't know. I had no idea. Jack, that's a lot to take in. It is, he admitted, his heart racing. But it changes things, doesn't it? Everything we thought we understood about our past. It complicates things, yes, she said, her voice steady but tinged with uncertainty. But it doesn't have to change how we feel about each other. Jack looked into her eyes, searching for the truth behind her words. What do you mean? I mean, regardless of the past, I still care about you, Jack. You were a huge part of my life. And just because David is gone, doesn't mean those feelings vanish. Her gaze was earnest, and for a moment, he felt a flicker of hope. But what does that mean for us now? For your kids? He asked, needing clarity in the midst of the emotional storm. Honestly, I don't know, Emily replied, her voice softening. But I do know that the past is complicated, and I don't want to ignore what we had. Maybe we can find a way to navigate this together. Jack's heart thudded in his chest as he contemplated her words. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but perhaps it also held the promise of healing. He looked at the children, laughing and playing, and felt a warmth spread through him. I think I'd like that. As they sat together watching the joyful chaos of childhood unfold, Jack realized that the weight of the past was not a burden to bear alone. He had a chance to rewrite the narrative, to build something new from the remnants of old dreams. And as he glanced at Emily, he felt the stirrings of a future that could still hold beauty amidst the complexities of life.